In the last 5 years, we have been having a massive storm of indie games starting to flow and grow and dominate in the gaming industry, with them not only succeeding but blowing out AAA releases even as recently as of this month with the release of the early access, not even the full game of Slay the Spire 2, and I've been having fun with that game on my own time. So when Steam had their Steam Next Fest last week or so, I started diving deep into all of the brand new indie games on the horizon, with a lot of them expecting to release this year or maybe later, but a lot of them are coming out this year. So for this video, I just thought I would do something a little bit different on this gaming channel. I decided to play as many game demos as I could for games that I even had a slightest interest in. My goal is very simple. I played each demo for approximately 30 minutes to an hour, less or more giving the length of the demo. And I am going to break down what I liked about the game and what I hope to see improved, and decide if I wanted to either cop or drop this game. Cop meaning I would wishlist a game and I would most likely buy it on release or early access if they ever have one. Or drop meaning either the game isn't for me and I most likely wouldn't buy it, or I would most likely want to see some changes or improvement to the game in order to possibly make me change my mind to ever consider it. The main goal of this video is to expose people to these games that they may not have even known about, and the point of it is to encourage you to try them for yourselves and decide if you want to have these games and give them a shot. With all of that explaining out of the way, let's start off with the first demo that I tried for this little series I might try on this channel called Cop or Drop. First up, Dench Attack. If you're a really big fan of these old school games like Jet Set Radio, or if you're a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog and a lot of those platforming high-speed games, then this game should definitely be on your list. I started to check this game out because I am a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I've always wanted to play Jet Set Radio or games like Sunset Overdrive, but I never actually got a chance to play those games when I was growing up. This game actually kind of gave me those vibes of that anime feel with the grungy look. I actually know there's a type of name for this type of art style, but it's like the graffiti look with a bunch of these different characters, and they all look very unique to each other. The main character they're using in this game is named Emmy, and you are running around using your train as an actual Uber Eats driver because your main thing is that you're delivering ramen. And in this game, you deliver ramen to this other guy named Fernando, who introduces you to the concept of known as Dench Attackers. Dench Attackers are people who use these trains to jump on tracks and do a bunch of these flips and tricks and do all these epic things. The whole premise of the game is that you get introduced to this idea, and Fernando kind of convinces you to become a Dench Attacker and become one of the best Dench Attackers in the entirety of the land. And that's the general premise of the game. And as for the gameplay wise, as you can see here, this is a very highly colorful game where you go high speeds and you're jumping on track to track. And while you're going on these tracks, you can go so fast to the point that you can do jumps. And when you do these jumps, you can commit tricks, causing you to collect a bunch of points. Just like in a lot of these other games where you have the ability to gain points, like in the old school skate games, you can jump around, do a bunch of tricks, and gain a bunch of points. And just like some of these Sonic games, your goal is to complete a lot of the objectives to get the highest score possible, while at the same time trying to do it without getting hit, like trying to do speedruns. But if you're just trying to have fun and enjoy the aesthetic of the game, then that's more than viable too. And I'm going to tell you this right now, this game is an immediate cop for me. I'm kind of messing up my format of how I'm doing this already because I wanted to make it where I kind of say it at the end of my descriptions of the game. But this game, I've been following it on Twitter for a fat minute, and I'm telling you this right now, this is an instantaneous cop for me. This game not only has these high-speed mechanics and these crazy flips and tricks you can do, but you can actually have a lot of these segmented and scripted segments that are so crazy. In the demo, you are actually flying through a volcano and you have to drive past and dodge all of these projectiles from your train being destroyed. And not only that, you can use a Ferris wheel. You go on this Ferris wheel and you get objectives to destroy a bunch of satellites while you're going through the demo. And even after the demo is done, you actually can continue playing the game on their freestyling mode. which if you're familiar with escape games, is like their freestyling sandbox mode. You can go around, use the train, and go on these different tracks, flip around, have these curves, go on these little tubes and do a bunch of jumps and tricks, and just have fun with all the mechanics of the game. And outside of the mechanics, you definitely can have a lot of fun looking at the backgrounds of everything, because it really matches the style that they're going for. You get a massive vibrant colors, you get to see these flashing effects that don't clutter up your screen so that you can't keep track of what's going on around you. There are so many dynamic camera sectors where you can get different positions. Like there is a sector where you can actually drive past and you can see a bunch of pillars in the background, and the track leads directly to it, and you can see as it expands out, and you're just doing a bunch of jumps and tricks and trying to actually collect some of the cool stuff around you while landing on the track. And you can do a bunch of drops and shifts so that way you can go on to different tracks, like in a lot of Sonic games where there's multiple tracks you can go to actually get to the same place. But in this game, it has the same concept, but there are a lot of tracks for you to go on. And not only that, you can get a lot of colorful effects for different tracks to gain extra points. The only negative is that I am not very used to a lot of these mechanics that I'm used to for these kind of games. So I wasn't a very big fan of the drifting mechanic because I felt like I was losing control of the train a little bit when I was trying to use it and get around to different tracks. And sometimes it's a little bit harder for me to understand how to switch tracks from track. Even though you push the button, it feels like it kind of loses track of me. But that doesn't happen very often, so it's not the biggest complaint that I have. But otherwise, this game is a 100% cop for me if you're a fan of a lot of these fast-paced traveling games. Next, Altered Alma. So Altered Alma is a Metroidvania, and I honestly do not remember the story of the game because it kind of goes through it pretty quickly in the very beginning of the game. But in essence, you used to be this manager or this protector for a massive organization that seems to be controlling a lot of robots. You decided to betray them because they were trying to command you to commit some form of massive genocide. You refuse that goal, and now you become a wanted criminal to that company, and you are now on the run trying to find a way off of this crazy cybernetic world so that way you can be free and don't have to deal with them anymore. Now, despite the game called Altered Alma, your main character's name is Jack, and you have your little cybernetic robot friend, and she's the general that we are following along. Now, the main selling point for this Metroidvania compared to others is that this game has a dating sim mechanic. So, in Altered Alma, you can do the same thing like in every other Metroidvania out there. You adventure, you find new weapons, you gain new abilities, you find out how to heal, attack, parry, all these different things. But in this game, your goal is to build a crew. You're trying to escape this hellscape, this cybernetic world, and in the very beginning section of the game, you save someone, and this person allows you to buy a ship or borrow a ship from them, and they join your crew. And just like in games like Baldur's Gate 3, you can talk to this character, have conversations, and you can choose different dialogue choices. Once you do that, they might approve or disapprove of how the conversation goes. If the conversation goes positively, they can become more than a friend, and at some point I believe the last sector means that they can become a lover. Now, I do not know how goonerish this game goes because I believe in the trailer they kind of showed a little bit of something, but nothing too crazy as far as I'm concerned. But outside of that, like every other Metroidvania, you learn about the lore of the world as you play the game. You get new objects, you get new weapons, and you learn how things are reacting to your body because you are also a cybernetic creature. Now, gameplay wise, the game is pretty fun. You have your horizontal attacks, your drops, your dashes, your parries, all these different things. And like in every other Metroidvania, you run around and you gain new abilities. Some of these abilities so far that I am kinda somewhat indifferent to. You gain a blade in the midst of the demo. And honestly, I'm telling you this right now. I have over an hour of playtime on this demo because the demo actually has a lot of content for you to do while you're going through it. They have a lot of content for you to try out. So far, combat wise, the game doesn't stand out to me in any real great detail. In fact, there are some things I'm not exactly a big fan of. One prime example is that you get this blade, and once you get this blade, you have the ability to kind of teleport to different places. It looks cool, but also it kind of confuses me in how it works in some places because there is some platforming you have to do, and you have to spam the button to go on a vertical area, and you kind of have to do this looping effect. It's not the most annoying thing on planet Earth to do, but I didn't really like it because it feels like I have to keep spamming the button and get carpal tunnel just to hit the button. I would have preferred to have like some kind of grapple or something like a slide on the top of it to make it a little bit different, but then that's how their platforming works. So I personally am not the big fan of that. But the glaring issue I have for this game so far is its parry. The parry doesn't really have much identity to it, and on top of that, it's very hard for me to know when I am allowed to parry certain things in the game. The parry can be happen anytime, there's no cooldown or anything like that, but one thing for sure is that when characters are about to attack you, it's not like games like God of War where you can see these wind up attacks and know when you can parry with like the glowing outline or with basic attacks. In this game, the parry doesn't feel like it rewards you to actually getting it off in the midst of the combat, because the character only kind of reels back for like a fraction of a second, but they can pretty much attack you as soon as it's done. You don't exactly get anything out of it. And on top of that, the parry is not exactly that very satisfying. Like, there's not really a very satisfying sound, there's not a satisfying effect. And on top of that, since it's so difficult for me to know when to parry, I just kind of avoid using the parry altogether, and I just end up using the dash or the teleporting blade, which allows you to get a little bit extra damage and have you enter this altered state where you can actually extend the state to do some cool stuff. So for the most part, the parry feels relatively obsolete. As for the actual setting of the game, I actually really liked this cyberpunk look. I haven't really played any Metroidvanias that have this cyberpunk feel to them, if there's any ones that I have missed, because this is essentially the first time I'm seeing one. And I do like the mechanic when you can use your robot friend to actually go to different areas that you can't go to, because they can be used as some form of puzzle solving mechanic to actually get into other rooms by going to small spaces, activating buttons. Now, the only thing with that mechanic is that in the demo, I couldn't exactly find where else I can use it except for the moment where they introduced the mechanic to me. I'm not entirely sure where they are, I might just be too stupid for it, but in the demo it was very hard for me to find those places. But that's relatively minor to me compared to the other combat mechanics that I have a little bit of a problem with. But the selling point that they have, the dating sim mechanic, I am not entirely sure if this is something that would actually make me want to buy the game, unless maybe it depends on who I can pick. Am I allowed to have like a harem? I'm allowed to pick only one person? Is it like Baldur's Gate where I can only date one or two people in certain circumstances, not all of the time? How exactly does it work? And how exactly does it help out in the overarching story of the game? Because in the most part, if it's just for connections for other characters, I'm like, sure, but it doesn't feel like it mixes with the Metroidvania side of things, so I'm not entirely sure if I like it or not, because there's only one character you can romance at this moment in time when you're doing the demo, at least as of this moment after I've played over an hour of it. Right now, this game is more of like a 50% cop or 50% drop. I am not entirely sure if this is a game I would actually go forward to. Like, it has to improve some things in the combat sector for me to actually want to play the game. And the dating mechanic is not exactly making me want to play it more. So it depends on what they decide to do at the later points as the game develops. So for the sake of simplicity, right now I will just say it's a drop. But at some point, I would actually like to see if it actually changes some things to make me actually want to cop it. Wild Blue Skies. Okay, I'm very much surprised I do not see a lot of people talking about this game, given that there is a legacy group behind this, I believe. Some of the old devs of a very popular game that a lot of people love. Wild Blue Skies is very much based off of the very popular old school game known as Star Fox 64. Where you join Bowie Stray and the Blue Bombers as they soar through the skies on a mission to save the world in this action-packed nostalgic adventure. And this game is not shying away from the idea of it being a Star Fox inspired game. This game looks exactly and plays exactly like Star Fox 64. Now, mind you, I have never played Star Fox 64. I know the memes, do a barrel roll, all that good stuff. But I played this game out of just pure curiosity because I never grew up with that game. And I will tell you this right now, if you are a big fan of the Star Fox games, this game is just gonna play exactly like that, with better graphics, with cool conversations, with goofy animals, and it's gonna be very fun to play. I will definitely say this game, for the most part, is a cop for me because it looks exactly how you would expect it to be. You fight off these bosses and they're not like a walk in the park. They are pretty difficult to get around, especially when you get to the boss fight of the demo. This game very much leans into the very arcadey feel of that time, so you actually get to feel like you're just playing an arcade game at your home. So you're definitely flying around in these dynamic environments, and you have to protect your ship, protect everything from being destroyed, and actually boost up, back up, learn how to turn your ship, because I figured that out later on because I didn't know you could do that. And especially like those old school games, they don't hold your hand while you're going through it. You got to learn as you go along. These games are not exactly the type of games I would usually play, but I can definitely see myself getting this game just for the pure nostalgic feel of playing 90s games and actually trying out this genre in the first time. Because honestly, since I never played Star Fox and it's very much difficult to play it now, I would 100% cop this game just to try it out. Now the demo for this game is pretty short, so obviously I don't get a full feel of it compared to the other demos that I played, because I had to end up doing like say 1 or 2 other runs to actually just get a better feel of it and just see if I can do better than the last time. But either way, this is definitely a very fun game to play. So 100% if you're into these kinds of games, these Star Fox, arcade flying games, you should definitely cop this game. I really wish I could say more, but since I'm so unfamiliar with this genre, I don't have many pros or cons for it. I have mainly pros. I guess the only con I really would have to say is that the boss fight at the very end is pretty hard. It's not impossible, but it's pretty difficult. So if you're very brand new to this kind of games, it will become very frustrating for you in the first time you play. But really that's just to a person-to-person basic. So honestly, if you're really into it, cop the game. I 100% would cop this game. Dusk Fade. So I've been following this game pretty closely for a while now because I am a big fan of Jak and Daxter and Crash Bandicoot. I grew up with those platformer games for a long time, and I've always been on the look for a new platformer that can give me that same kind of feel. And a lot of times I didn't really get that feel because they just kept remaking the same games. I wanted to find a new franchise that I just had never tried before. And then lo and behold, this game spawned on my feed one day and I instantly started following it because I just liked the look of it. Essentially, this game follows this character known as Zirian, who is accompanied by his mechanical friend known as Cuckoo, and he is on his journey to save his sister from a mysterious clock tower that has suddenly plunged the world and land into an eternal night. So the game basically follows this very clockworky kind of scenario and kind of feel throughout the land, and I'm telling you this right now, I am probably going to cop this game as well, because it hasn't given me the exact feel I'm looking for when it comes to Jak and Daxter games, but it comes pretty close. If you're a real big fan of, say, Kingdom Hearts, because it has that kind of feel to it personally to me, because of the, sword that he has, it kind of reminds me of a Keyblade, and he will also get a lot of different cool stuff throughout the game. When you look at the trailer on Steam, it looks like you can get cool objects, cool artifacts, and you can get a lot of cool gadgets as you go along and fight all these crazy creatures. And then you run around, you meet these very kooky and cool little ink monsters. Some of them are friendly and some of them are actual enemies. And some of them have some pretty kooky dialogue, like one of them who is guarding his vases. And of course they hold a bunch of shards and gems as they go along. And when you talk to the ink monster that's next to him, he says, "Oh, I hope nobody decides to destroy my vases because it's for his college fund." And honestly, I felt bad because as I'm in college myself, I'm like, you know what, I ain't gonna take your stuff, bro. I feel bad for you myself. It's all good. I'll leave you be. In any other circumstances, I would have taken it without a second thought. But you know what? In this point in time, I decided to spare the NPC. But I want to tell you this right now, the look of this game, the designs, the structures, the actual landscape, and on top of that, the music of this game is very, very captivating. And I really enjoyed going through it as I was just kind of just venturing around, and everything looks very beautiful. They took a lot of time. It looks like they put a lot of work into actually creating these glorious landscapes.
I'm coming for you.
The only gripe I have is the combat. Now, the combat is fine for the most part, but it does feel like it's kind of incomplete to a degree. In essence, like this. The combat actually doesn't feel like it has a lot of kickback to it, right? So, prime example, when you think of Jak and Daxter and he punches a leaker, you feel and see the impact of it. I like the idea that you're able to stretch Jak and Daxter along while he's doing these motions and all these crazy effects are happening, and you actually feel and hear the impact of it happening. Now, in this game, you hear the impacts, but it doesn't feel like it's as impactful as I thought it would be. It doesn't feel like I'm getting a lot of kickback or reaction from the characters. They don't have to be like reeling back in massive pain or anything like that, but it felt like they was kind of missing something. I don't know exactly what it is. It's just, I don't know if it's the sound. I don't know if it's the reaction to the creatures. I don't know. But one thing I definitely do not like personally is Cuckoo. Cuckoo is a character I like, but he does help you in the fights. But in the last parts of the fight, when you're in the midst of slashing a horde and the very last creature, you don't get the last hit. I like the idea of like in these matches, the assistant characters you have are only there to assist. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens more often than I want it to. I don't mind him actually on occasion, you know, deciding to stop a random creature on the other side of the map or they're not close to me, or it happens once in a while. But it happens a little bit too much for my liking, so that way it feels like I'm depending on Cuckoo even though I don't mean to. So personally, if it was up to me, I would personally make it that, oh, he has like a button that you can activate, so that way he does like maybe a one move, or maybe he does have an automatic move but he only does it like in certain occasions, or like when you get hit. So that way it happens like, say if you're losing really badly and he assists when he feels like you're not handling it, not exactly when you're doing fine, and you kind of like takes the fun away of you being able to slash through all of them on your own, you know? The only other gripe that I have is the amount of currency in the game that's all over the place. Now, I do like the fact that there's a lot of stuff you have to platform to collect. You can collect gear upgrades as you go along, but there's a lot of shards all over the place that are not exactly, like, I personally do not care for a place that has way too many shards or way too much currency all in one place. Like, yeah, it's satisfying, but I prefer the, you know, restricted amount or certain amount that's been locked away. You know, in Jak and Daxter, you run around and you have the precursor orbs, and there are certain areas where it's very high in density, but it's not all over the place, you know? But again, that's a personal gripe for me. But outside of that, this game is a definite cop for me, especially if they decide to do a little bit of changes to the combat and a little bit of changes to the amount of density of currency that's all around. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be a very happy camper for this game. Dust Fade is definitely should be on your wish list. Vampire Crawlers. If you sucked at playing Vampire Survivors before, then this game is meant for you because you don't have to worry about the horde on your own. This game is just Vampire Survivors merged with Slay of the Spire, and then you get this game. Because this game is literally just all of that all into one. And it is already a very addicting game. Slay of the Spire already has me in a chokehold already. When I decided to play this demo, I was going to be like, okay, let's see how refreshing it is. It is a very refreshing feel. It plays a little bit different compared to Slay the Spire. It's very similar, like you have your energy spheres and you get these cards, but the same thing, you get to pick all these characters from Vampire Survivors. You can unlock them as you go along, and you can unlock upgrades as you go along as well, and you get the freedom to navigate the map. So like in Slay of the Spire, you get to choose, you know, whatever path you want to go, and then whatever's in your way is what happens along, whether it's a enemy fight or a boss fight or a random interaction. But in this game, it's actually in a 2D map space, and you feel like you're actually traveling along. So you use all of these arrow buttons to actually just go all these different areas, and you're supposed to run into things like running into different enemies, or if you see a log in your way, or if you see a certain statue, or if you see a torch, you can run into it and get gold, or you can find a lot of really question mark areas, kind of like Slay the Spire, and you can either get another energy orb, or you can get a upgrade or something like that. But nonetheless, this game is literally the exact same thing as Vampire Survivors, but Slay the Spire style, and this is definitely 100% cop. I honestly do not think there's anything else I can say about it, because I didn't see any negatives because I was so zoned into the game, to the point that I literally could probably get like 20 hours out of the demo, even though if I'm playing the same thing. And obviously the maps are procedurally generated, so of course everything is different every time you go in. So yeah, 100%. If you really love Vampire Survivors and Slay the Spire, you're 100% going to love this game right here. 100%. Restory. Now we're kind of making a little bit of a pivot to a different sector of kind of gaming, which is the cozy gaming sector. Now I do not know much about the cozy gaming sphere. because I just don't play cozy games. There are some games that I may have that are a little bit more atmospheric, but I don't play games that are with their main goal being just simply cozy, atmospheric, relaxing type feel. But since I grew up with a lot of old school gaming parts and a lot of gaming mechanics, I just saw this on Twitter one day and I said, you know what, let me give this game a shot. Also, this one's a little bit different because this was not on Steam Next Fest. They have a playtest that's out right now, so not really a demo, but you can try the playtest right now if you really wanted to. Basically, the entire premise of the game is that you run a quaint electronics repair shop in the mid-2000s Tokyo, and your goal is to grow your business by carefully restoring electronic video game devices, cell phones, music players, and a bunch of other nostalgic devices. And your goal is to talk to your customers, get actual decent storylines, hear their stories, see how your decisions actually impact how different things go, improve the reputation of your store, all that cool stuff. You buy equipment, you get a duster, all that cool stuff. And when I started playing this game, I actually did not think that I would actually really like it, because I'm thinking, you know what, it's pretty cozy, there's not much action, yeah, I'm an action head, that's what I am. But this game definitely got me somewhere. I don't know what it is, but it kind of felt very therapeutic to play this game. And you can also have the fun idea of just pretending you're just this magnetic Mongol of trying to get as much money as you possibly can, because that's what it started devolving for to me, where I just started trying to get all these parts and see how much money I can make in one day, to the point that I even felt inclined to start doing work even though when I'm supposed to be closed, because I believe the lore of the story is that the character you're playing is supposed to be some kind of protege to the original owner of the shop. So you're supposed to follow a certain amount of rules. You're supposed to open a certain time and close a certain time, but that nothing stops you from staying open or staying closed. At least that's what I think, because I never really tried to stay closed as I opened up. But basically, even though when it's closing time, sometimes I just felt inclined to just close the shop and still work on some devices and then put them onto the sales section. And then after the next day comes, you can actually get some income coming in, and then you just rinse and repeat. If you're really into cozy games, then I say tap into this game, because I actually feel like I'm actually cop this game. For the longest time, I actually never really touched cozy games for a long time because I just wasn't thinking I would be into them, but this one makes me actually want to go into it a little bit deeper, see what other games are out there in this genre that I might really like, because this game might be a good way to move away from the hectic playings of, I don't know, Apex Legends or Arc Raiders or whatever toxic game that you're playing, Marvel Rivals, whatever the case may be. Because all you're doing is getting cool things like a Tamagotchi, you're getting like a Nokia phone, you're getting, obviously they're not using the actual names because we're not trying to get sued in this type beat, but you get all these different things. And later on, recently, I saw on their Twitters, on some of their platforms, that they're going to add more game items, and one things that they kind of tease that they're going to add like a Nintendo DS variant, and I am looking forward to that because they already have something like the PS Vita in the game as well. So 100% try this game out, see if you like it, see if you can get into the playtest, test it out, and tell me guys what you think about it, because I'm 100% copying this game. Blade Song. So this is one of those games that goes away from the format that I said before, because this game was not on Steam's Next Fest, but this game was announced, I believe, last year, and I got into the demo a while back, and right now the game is in early access ever since of January of this year. This game is very simple. This is the ultimate sword making game, and there are two modes in this game. One mode where you're playing the story mode, where you're basically kind of going through some kind of D&D kind of thing, where you're used to be some kind of slave who decides to build your own business of becoming a blacksmith, so that way you can actually enter this place known as Aaron's Keep and at least try to survive in this very dying world, and hopes that you can actually satisfy every customer that comes through. So the whole premise of the story mode is to make weapons to appease all of your customers, and you get a little bit of story as you go through the days. When I say story, I mean story. It's not like something where you're just kind of getting like quick tidbits or there are massive, long, lengthy tablets of information. You're having conversations with NPCs, you're learning about what's going on around you, and you actually get to make decisions that might actually improve your gameplay as you go through the story mode. It is a very fun game to try out. And obviously there's a lot of people already out there trying really wacky things. Someone already made a gun for the game, so that's kind of crazy crazy, but you can just have a lot of fun. Just if you want to try something out, like if you have an idea for a story and you want to try and make a weapon, hey, try this game out. Just use the demo, or you can do the early access, which is about 20 bucks. But one thing for sure, I already plan to cop this game because this game is basically scratches the itch I have, like if I want to make something, because the whole premise of this game, one of the great things about this game is that you can actually 3D print these weapons that you create. You have the option to do that. So you can do a lot of creative things. Like if you have an idea for like a cosplay, tap into this game, 20 bucks, make it in there and then 3D print it. All one of the great things out there. You can change the backgrounds, you can change the music. The music is very soothing and medieval and fun to listen to. So 100%, I think you guys should really check out this game and cop it for yourself. Last Man City. So this is one of those games that had a lot of buzz around it ever since it got announced at one of those showcases. I do not remember what showcase it was, but essentially the whole concept is very simple. If you're a big fan of games like Megabonk or you're into bullet hell kind of games, this game is for you. Because your whole premise is that you're in this office building, you're on a chair, and you're supposed to just destroy all of these evil corporate robots that exist in the area. That's it. That's the whole premise of the game. And you get to update your chair, you upgrade your chair, you get a lot of cool artifacts, you get cool weapons. And if you really like games like Megabonk, where you basically run around and just kill everything in a 30-mile radius, then by all means you should check this game out. Personally, for me, this game is a little bit of a 50-50 for me, because I would most likely play this game with friends. But they did announce that there is a multiplayer aspect to the game, so I believe you're able to either play against people or play with people. I'm not entirely sure, because I got into the demo a little bit late, so I didn't really get to test out the multiplayer aspect just to see how it actually works. But I probably might put it onto the screen or might break it down later on just to see if that's what it is. But basically, you just do a lot of shooting and killing the entirety of the game. You get a lot of upgrades, you can change how your character looks. In the very beginning of the demo, you get first two weapons, which is a machine gun, which is the very best weapon so far, and a katana. I tried the katana, but the katana is not exactly very fun to play with when you're dealing with a massive mob, because I tried to move from the lowest level of difficulty to normal, and I got immediately washed while using the katana because you have to be close to the characters. So it kind of was a very useless weapon up to the point. So I moved back to the machine gun, which was a lot more doable. But the levels in this game are actually pretty difficult. They're not super easy. They're not like you can just run through and have a lot of like bullet hell fun and then think you can just win pretty easily. Like maybe with the normal difficulty, because the normal difficulty, it took me a while to win my first run. Compared to the easy difficulty, obviously it was a complete and utter cakewalk, especially when you're going through the tutorial. But as you go to normal to hard, those levels actually get crazy hard. So you kind of have to find this mechanic or find a way to actually build up your character really fast, because the mobs would start to overwhelm you pretty quickly. Now I will say I'm not exactly the biggest fans of bullet hell games, as Megabonk was like one of the first ones I actually really tried, but I did like the idea that I can actually turn off the opacity for the bullets for Megabonk. So I kind of was like, you know, I don't necessarily need to have this kind of game. This game is more of like a thing I might try to play with my friends, but not necessarily I'll probably cop on my own personally. But if you really like these bullet hell games and you want to actually try it and play with your friends, by all means, I would say check out this game, play the demo, see if you actually really like it. I personally thought the upgrades for the games were pretty boring personally, because they didn't feel like they changed much of the gameplay. Like the ones that changed a lot about it was the actual electricity gameplay, when you get a lot of Tesla towers and you can actually electrocute everybody in the vicinity. It was a crazy day. But I'm telling you that right now, outside of that, like if you tried any other of the upgrades, it feels like it didn't do much change, except for maybe poison. But then again, I didn't get to upgrade it fully because I ended up dying. But granted, I feel like they need to add a little bit more creativity to the upgrades and see if they actually show any great changes, like the effects as they go along. But outside of that, it's not too bad. I'll probably say it's a drop for me right now, but I'll probably cop if it was just to play with my friends. Onikura. So if you're coming from my main channel but you are not aware of this, I am a massive whore when it comes to samurais, and this is a Metroidvania following a samurai. Now in the demo, they don't give you that much understanding of what's going on or why this main character is going around slaughtering a bunch of different people, but outside of that, It's a really fun game to play. This game leans heavily into its parry mechanics for the Metroidvania genre, and I'm telling you this right now, this is one of the most satisfying parry systems I've seen in a Metroidvania in a fat minute, because they basically give you this idea that you have some kind of spider sense with this main character, but that doesn't mean that the attack is coming as soon as that spider sense happens. Because usually when you see that indication, like in the Spider-Man games, you just hit dodge as soon as it happens and you just dodge immediately. So I thought, oh, it's probably going to be boring if I do that. I'm not a big fan of that. But no, what it essentially tells you is that, oh, the next attacks after this indication happens are parryable. Parry at your own risk. And I'm telling you this right now, all of these parries, like the parry timing is pretty forgiving, but I was missing parries left and right, even though I thought I could do it. And the game doesn't exactly fully punish you for missing a parry. Like, yeah, if you get hit without parrying, you lose one of those life stops because you don't have a life bar. You have the same aspect of like Hollow Knight, where you have flowers that indicates how many lives you have. But if you decide to parry and you miss the parry, like say you did it too early and you kind of like quote unquote block it, you can regenerate the health if you wait a second, which I think is a really cool idea, because you might not have the energy to actually heal, but you can still recover as long as you parry everything after that and just hold out for just a little bit longer. Now in the game, we don't get a bunch of common enemies. In the demo, you only fight bosses. So I don't exactly know how the main game is going to go, because in the demo, you only go to 2 sections. At the very beginning, which gives you the very basics of how the game runs, you know, how to jump, how to run, how to wall jump, how to parry, how to do your special attacks, and so on. But you actually just start getting the full grasp of everything when you start hitting the bosses. And the bosses are pretty fun to play. I actually really like seeing them, because it feels like you're playing Sekiro, but Metroidvania style, you know? And in the demo, you have the option to fight 3 bosses. You can choose them and go back to them as many times as you need to, and basically you just have fun trying to kill the boss. And the ultimates in this game are pretty fun, because as you can see, I'm a big anime nerd, so as soon as they gave me the first ultimate, I already knew, I'm like, I'm getting some Ichigo Gatsuga Tenshos. And not only that, one of the ultimates you unlock, because you can choose talismans for upgrades as you go down the line, I got a hollow purple. And I was very happy that I got a hollow purple. So as soon as I got the hollow purple, I switched the Gatsuga to the hollow purple, and the next boss I fought, I tried to kill him with it. Now I didn't end up killing him with it. I don't think I did. I don't remember for sure. If it's in the gameplay, I might have shown it. But if I didn't do it, that's a very sad day. But if I did, oh, it was very satisfying. But it was very fun to play. So this game 100% is going to be a cop. Now, I would like to know more about the exploration and how the game is going to go, because we only get that small section. So the demo is pretty short, but I was able to get at least an hour of playtime with it. But this game is a 100% cop for me. 100%. Deadline delivery. Look guys, they put me in a game. Well, kinda. Deadline delivery is a very simple concept. You are a monkey delivery driver and you're bad at your job. You're so bad that your boss decides to put you on a performance improvement plan. And what does that plan entail? Him putting dynamite in your truck. And if you don't deliver your mail on time, you get blown to bits. This game was infuriating. Now don't get me wrong, not infuriating in a bad way, but infuriating as in this is a game that is meant for a challenge. So the whole concept is that you're supposed to do it as fast as possible while delivering your mail and not crashing into anyone. Everything and everyone can crash into you and blow you to bits.
No, damn! The first step is always the hardest. Never mind. You know this game was built for me, because it was made for me, because I know I like to serve the community the best way that I can by delivering their mail. Or this may not be me. This is just my brother Steven, And then yeah, see, I'm still going. I don't understand why I'm just exploding on rocks. I'm just exploding on rocks. Every single time, every time. Not only that, I am locked behind the next stage because of physics.
And you have to learn how to use the mechanics of driving forward and drifting in the game so that way you don't die immediately. And the And it took me a while for me to understand the mechanics of the game and get used to it, because it was pretty difficult for me for the very first few times, for the first few minutes. But then eventually, after an hour or an hour and a half or so, I was actually able to get it and actually complete all 3 tracks. In the demo, you only get 3 tracks as you go through, and you don't get much customization outfits out of it, but the game is pretty fun for a moment in time, but it can become very frustrating very quickly. Because even during the tutorial, I was struggling very hard to get to the end of the track. Now eventually I did, but I still didn't fully grasp the actual way of how the game works. And it took me a while eventually, and eventually I learned, I'm like, okay, it really isn't that hard, but it still takes me a while to get used to it. Now I will definitely say, I feel like if you're someone who's not used to these kind of games, you're definitely going to struggle for the very beginning, and I can see you possibly trying it out for one day and then you might return it because of how hard it is. But I will definitely say it adds a redeeming factor that it does have a multiplayer mode. Now unfortunately it doesn't have that in the demo, so you won't be able to see it for yourself because it only will happen during the full release of the game. But from what I understand from the trailer is that it's going to be the same thing as the single player, but you just have to do it with other friends, and I'm assuming you're supposed to do it as faster than anyone or do it as better than anyone, like some kind of pseudo competition. And I feel like it'll be a lot more fun to play with friends outside of by yourself, because this is one of those games where, as much as I like the idea, I do not know if I want to be infuriated playing this game by myself. So this game is more of like a maybe cop. It's kind of like on the 50% mark. It will be a more of a definite cop if my friends are interested in playing the game. But even so, it would probably be fun for like a while, and then eventually I would probably get frustrated by how difficult some of the tracks are, and then find something else. But if you like these kind of challenges, this is a game for you. It's meant for you. And I definitely am not saying that this is going to be the most annoying game to play, but it would definitely be a fun game to play for a while. So I'll probably say this is a maybe cop, like a 40%, 50% cop, maybe 60% if my friends are really into it. But outside of that, there is a chance for me that I wouldn't buy this game. Airframe Ultra. This is a very weird game that I found. So the best way I can describe this game is take the artistic style of Iron Lung and the weirdness of, I don't know, QWOP, and then add the, I don't know, battle royale aspects of, I don't know, maybe Apex Legends. I don't know. Basically what happens is I'm trying to think of a game that mixes with it well, but I can't think of it right now because it has the art style of Iron Lung. It has a very similar art style. Basically, Airframe is a game where you are playing a bunch of racers who are trying to win this random racing circuit. Now basically it's supposed to be this open world kind of racing game. I don't know how exactly to work. Actually, you know what? I think the best way for me to describe it is Iron Lung merged with Jack X Combat Racing. That is as close as I can describe it, because this game leans very heavily on the racing mechanics of the game, where you can pick up katanas, stop signs as javelins, airsoft rifles, grenades, Molotov cocktails, EMPs, all these different crazy things. And I think the whole point of the game is that you're able to actually do races where you run around and you can kill people and try to finish the race, or you can have like battle arenas and you can just defeat as many people as you possibly can. Now in the demo you only get an introduction to how to drive the bike, how to drive the cars, how you can describe and change up your biker, what weapons you have, and you get an introduction to how some of the game works. And I'm gonna tell you this right now, I was surprised to find this game. I don't even remember how I found this game, because I don't think it was on Steam Next Fest. I think I found this randomly somewhere, and I got super intrigued by the idea of the game and how it looked, and I was like, I actually probably would play this kind of game because it gives you that retro arcade feel while having these vehicle combat elements. And I was like, I haven't seen something like that in a minute, so I thought this was a really cool idea. And if I remember correctly, these are the same developers that gave us the game Rain World, which is a very well received game. I haven't personally played it. It's on my wish list. That came out back in like 2017, but this is their next game, I believe. And honestly, bro, I can see this being a very fire cop. Honestly, I personally think I can see it as a fire cop. The only thing that I can see that are probably problematic to me personally is that some of the customization for the game is a little bit wonky. Like when you try to rotate characters, the rotation won't stop, and there are some things where I was like clipping through the ground, but then that was like me crashing into something and something went wrong. But For the most part, nothing really too game-breaking happened. I also wasn't the very biggest fan of the music, but other than that, it was not bad. It was not bad at all. So depending on how he finishes this game, I'm gonna tell you this right now, I actually would cop this game 100%. Because I've said it before on an old stream I did when I was playing Jack X Combat Racing. That's kind of like a run back game for like old school games. I would love another game like Jack X, like a redoing of it or a remaster or a reboot or something to bring back that kind of rustic and guttural racing again. But this one, as it may not exactly be Jack X Racing, it feels like it might scratch that itch for me. So honestly, I would 100% give this game a good look. Rel, Warped Worlds and Troubled Times. I believe I found this game on Twitter, and I believe it was also on Steam Next Fest. I am not entirely sure, but I will definitely say it was probably on there somewhere. But this is another indie game that's being created where you're playing a sorcerer who was once in the dungeons, and for some reason a mysterious phenomenon is happening in your world. Everyone in the world is vanishing for reasons that we do not know, and basically because of the disappearances of everyone, you are actually able to escape out of your dungeon because of a random magic book falling on your head. Now you kind of take it upon yourself because of the leader of the kingdom. They kind of apologize for locking you away for reasons that we don't know for why you're locked up for yet, to help figure out what's going on. And basically this game doesn't hold your hand for anything. This game is meant for you to think for yourself and be the most sandboxy game I've ever ran into when it comes to magic. Everything in this world is interactive by this magic book you have. So basically, as you run around the world, your goal is to collect tomes. And when you collect these tomes, you add them to your magic book. When you add them to your magic book, you can actually mix and match the spells. So basically, you can use a push spell or a rotate spell, and then later on you can get a freeze spell and then a jumping spell. And basically you can summon a scarecrow that can summon the same spells in the same line that you just used. This game basically puts you in a position where you're supposed to navigate this world by using the spells that you have, and you are not given a correct answer. You're just supposed to do what you think is right, and if for whatever reason your decision doesn't work, guess what? You reset the map and try again. This is a very interesting game because I don't know how to feel about it, because I love the look of the game. I love the character that you run into. They're very quirky and funny and goofy because your main character is kind of like full of himself a little bit, but at the same time they're kind of talking to idiotic individuals that they run through. It's pretty funny, but at the very same time, this game makes my head hurt. You literally have to use everything that is in your vicinity to figure out how to solve whatever problem that you have. There are some very easy solutions, some very easy answers, but at the same time the game just says, listen, there's stuff that you can interact with, good luck. You want to open that door, you got to hold that button down. How are you going to get something over there? Good luck and figure it out. And honestly, I can see myself copying this game. I don't know why. Something about it very intrigues me, and I want to see if I could actually complete the whole game. There's some of the demos still left over that I haven't finished. I played for about an hour. I'm very close to an hour, I think. But this game is definitely a fun thing if you want to have like a puzzle game or a game that actually kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit. I don't know how long the full game will ever be, but if it's like a solid 10 to 20 hour game with all of these puzzles, that's a good 100 hours alone for just trying to figure out how to get through some of those puzzles. And honestly, I can see myself copping it. I can see myself doing it. It's not a heavy cop, it's not a heavy cop, it's not a 100% cop, but it's there. Super Alloy Crush. If you like Mega Man side-scroller adventures sometimes with some cat girls anime titties, then by all means this game is for you. Super Alloy Crush is a 2D fast-paced roguelike brawler inspired by the classics like Mega Man, and you play as the main character Kelly and Moo, or known as number 2, to defeat enemies and obtain ultimate cosmic treasure. And your goal is to adventure planet AE38. And you run through the game, beating all these hordes of enemies and fighting off really powerful and crazy bosses. So as someone who actually wants to get into Mega Man at some point before the new Mega Man game drops, and not only that, I have the Mega Man collection sitting in my Steam library on my backlog just waiting to be played, I tried this out just to see what it's all about. And obviously there are some things in this game that caught my attention from just the trailer alone. Obviously it's the gameplay, the very riveting and amazing gameplay. All jokes aside, the gameplay is really fun. They have really creative abilities. You have these dashes effects, you can have these ultimate attacks. Now you only get like a very few in the demo, but the game is still really fun to play. And you get really creative bosses. The game is not just, you know, bullet hell fun and you just kill all of these easy bosses or creatures all at once, but you actually can actually have a hard time beating the game if you get swarmed in all different directions. But the game is actually very beautiful to look at. The backgrounds are amazing, the effects are great, some of the powers for the character that I was using was awesome, and you can pick and choose who you want to use as you go through. Now obviously I chose my girl Kelly for obvious reasons, but for the most part you can use the other guy as well. You can use Moo, and as you go along you get the story of why everything was happening, because there's a massive plot that I personally do not remember and don't understand because it's Giga anime. But at this moment in time, I 100% probably can see myself copping this game, but I would probably only cop this game until I beat the Mega Man games that I have sitting in my backlog, because I can't just buy another side-scroller Mega Man like game that's inspired by Mega Man without playing Mega Man, you know? But this game, 100%, y'all should check this game out. Play it for an hour on the demo, because you get like this Tower of God section after you beat the main story for the first part of the demo, and you can beat all these crazy bosses as you go through. But this game is definitely worth checking out. Stone Machia. At least I believe it's pronounced Stone Machia. If I am saying it wrong, if the developer sees this video, please correct me if I am wrong. But we're going into an indie Souls-like game right now. Now, obviously, I've already kind of known about this game already. I do not know if it was on Next Fest, but it was a game that I was actually waiting for a demo for it to drop. And I didn't know the demo dropped for a long time. In fact, it dropped 2 years ago. So honestly, I feel like it's a disservice if I don't talk about the game right now, just to see if anybody would be interested in trying this game out, because honestly, this game is mad creative. So your main character is known as Zefiro. I believe that's Spanish or Portuguese, but I do not know what it actually means, because there is some dialogue in the game that's in a different language. And basically you are in this massive war zone, and the main characters that you're using are based off of chess pieces. And these are like angelic warriors fighting off these evil beings, and there's like a plague of angels, and there's a dark adventure fantasy feel around it. And basically, in essence, from what I can understand, you are an angel warrior that got knocked off because of a devil or something, and you got knocked off of heaven, and your goal is to get back to heaven. Now, first off, your first form, you're using a pawn, but you have the ability to actually transform into different chess pieces with completely different movesets. With the pawn form, you get the very basic movesets, you know, your easy sword slashes, your dodges, your parries, all that good stuff. And I will definitely say this is probably the second most satisfying parry that I've used in this binge of different demos that I've gone through. This parry is pretty fun because it doesn't matter what area you're in, as long as you time it, you can actually get the parry off, which I really like. And even if you think the game is pretty easy based on of that fact, it really isn't that easy. And then you also have the other forms, like the Bishop, which is just basically running around like a Beyblade on the top of his head as a basic move. You literally can just spam the attack button and you're just going to be spinning on your head, Beyblading, breakdancing the entire way through.
Beyblade, Beyblade, let it rip! Let's fight an epic battle! Face off and spin the metal! No time for doubt now! No place for backing down!
And you have a bunch of cool special attacks off of it. There's also the Knight and the Rook. Now, I do not know how the Knight and the Rook work also, because you get introduced to that in the very beginning section of the game, which unfortunately I'm not showing in this video because I'm an idiot YouTuber and I can't record sometimes because I forgot to hit record before I got to that section, because I was very much distracted on how the game was looking at that moment in time. Now, I will definitely say it does have the Souls-like feel, but it does feel a little bit more along the lines of like an action-adventure game, like a God of War game, because you get to like hit the enemies like almost as many times as you want, compared to like Dark Souls or Elden Ring. It's only certain weapons that work with different speeds and different paces and so on. Hence why like people like to use, say, magic, because they like to keep a distance and be able to hit them more than once. In this game, as far as I'm concerned, there is different buffs and changes to the character, but you won't really see it unless you kind of notice as you play through. Like the very beginning form, like the pawn, is a very balanced build. You don't take that much damage, damage, but you don't deal that much damage either. But then the bishop, you can hit them as many times as you want because of your spinning mode, but you don't deal as much damage, but you take more damage also. Now, I haven't finished the demo yet because the demo actually is a pretty meaty demo, because I thought that when I finished like the first 2 or 3 boss fights that I actually would just be done with the demo. But then that questions how much content did he put into the demo is he going to put into the actual final game, because I ran into I think 2 bosses and then I got into a new area which got me the bishop transformation, and I was very much confused. I'm like, whoa, I'm still going. This demo is going on for a while and I got over an hour in this game, and honestly I can see myself copying this game. The only thing is that I'm not sure, like something about it is missing at this moment in time, but it's mainly for like I think the battle system, because I do like the aesthetic, I love the backgrounds, I love everything, and obviously I'm trying my best not to compare it to other Souls-like games, because my first Souls-like game was Elden Ring, and I wanted to see, okay, maybe the combat will be adjusted when the full game drops, or when it decides to do another demo or updates a demo in whatever way. I guess the main thing is, for me, I don't exactly know how the power system works in this game, so that's probably why I'm not entirely invested in it. But outside of it, it's a really cool game. The atmosphere really good. I can't speak on it too perfectly because obviously it's an indie game, so I'm not gonna sit here and compare it to like the gigaton giants like Bandai and stuff. But outside of that, I feel like this will be a really great cop, and I honestly hope to see a lot more people get invested in this game, because I think one thing for sure, this might pop off. To be quite honest, this would be a really creative game if it really did pop off. And last but not least, Wonderberg. Now, Wonderberg is a game that I did not think I would actually be getting into today. It's another game that if you're into roguelike elements and similar games, if you're into like say games like Megabonk, but this game is where you are building a assault castle in essence, and you're running around the stage and you're defeating everyone and you're collecting health points and you're trying to upgrade your castle as best as your ability. It's very similar to how Megabonk works, but you actually control the castle as you run around. As you can see, I started playing around with the map and making my very fine arts on the map. Forgive me, it's just I couldn't help myself. When I see something where I can draw, I start drawing very beautiful art at a whim. But yeah, you're basically running around having your castle consume all of the floor tropes and become this gigaton powerful castle. It decides to devour and destroy everything in this medieval roaming fortress game. And your very goal is to become the strongest stronghold in the entire land, obviously. And you defeat bosses, mini bosses, foot soldiers, health packs, chest bearers, all these different kinds of castles that exist all across the area. And honestly, this is a 100% cop. This game is very, very fun to play. And I don't really have that much to say. Like, I love the framework, I love the drawings of everything, I love the landscapes, and obviously in the demo, you get a tease of all the other landscapes that exist around you, and obviously you're probably going to run into new different types of castles, all these different new foot soldiers, and all these different types of characters and different types of creatures, because I believe everything's procedurally generated. That's what it looks like to me, because I did, I think, 2 to 3 runs, and some of the bosses I got were different. And I'm telling you this right now, this is 100% like a game that you can play for hours and you will not remember what happened to you like after a few minutes, because I got terrified by one of those bosses in my second run because he was sucking me in, and he had these, jaws of life type of front on the castle, and I'm like, why can't I have that? Why am I getting attacked like this? And of course, I died on my second run, and I did like I think 2, 3, or maybe even 4 other runs afterwards, and I can see myself really enjoying this game. So honestly, if you like bullet hell but not super heavy like in Megabonk, it's pretty condensed, it doesn't feel like it's too overwhelming, check this game out 100%. And that's all of the demos that I have right now. Now, I want to do a second video because I do not want this video to exceed past like an hour or something, but it might end up being that way anyways for how many games I talked about today. But I want to do a part 2 of this video, and I'm going to show all of the other demos I played, because there's a bunch of other demos that I played. Let me know which demo you guys feel like would be interested in trying, or see what they're looking into, see if you want to actually try them out for yourselves. And of course, if you really like these kind of videos that I do do on my gaming channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, because obviously this helps me out to do more videos like this. Also, don't forget to check out my other videos of me playing, you know, fighting games and all these other games as well, because I do gameplay videos as well if this is your first time tapping into this channel. And lastly, check out my main channel where I do a lot of video essays, talking videos, yapping videos about comic books, TV shows, animes, and all that good stuff. But other than that, that's all I have to say today about all these demos. Hope to see you guys next time when I talk about it. I didn't do my intro before I did this video, so I'm glad to see you beautiful monkeys here as well. It's your boy Kadukun. I'll see you guys next time, and peace.
FMA, handle business, don't play. On point when it comes to the anime. Jack and Daxter, ayy, let's go. The ultimate heroes, don't stop, we on the road. Kadu-kun. Kadu-kun.
Yeah, welcome to the channel.